Welcome back to Shoot Fire with Ashley. Today we're going to take a look at one of my guns in this little miniature toolbox. This is a Colt Gold Cup trophy, and I will call it a light, which means it has no checkering on the front strap and no mag well. That's the only thing that makes it a LITE version, a light version of the Colt Gold Cup trophy. Now, when I first bought this gun, it's about a year ago, I had decided I wanted to replace one that I had when I was a young Navy man, and I let it get away from me. That's back when I was a lot looser with my guns. Anyway, I sold it to pay for some car insurance on a Corvette at the time. Thought that was a good move to not run out of insurance on a fine 67 big block Corvette. So that gun got away. So now I finally got me one again here in 2000, bought it last year, 2025, and found out that the Colt Gold Cup was definitely lacking in some quality control issues. And the first thing I noticed was it had a plastic mainspring housing. I did not like that. This is the plastic mainspring housing, and I took that out. I went ahead and kept the factory spring with it, and I reused the pin. It also had a very unusual, really new designed dual recoil spring. And I think that they were using this as an extension when they first built the M45A1 for the Marine Corps. They were doing this to try to give them a lot longer life. So this is a dual spring. It has a small diameter inner spring, a larger outer diameter spring. And because the spring is so small on the inside, that dictates that you have to use a different guide rod. So this is not a GI guide rod. It's a very small diameter one. The springs, they did put a lot of thought into this when Colt built this. The spring on the inner is wound one direction, and this is wound the other so that they don't get tangled or fight against each other during recoil. I do not know the poundage on this spring. I know Colt kind of keeps that like it's a top secret thing. It's probably, I'm going to guess, it's probably in the 20-pound range, 18 to 20, maybe up to 22. It's definitely a heavy spring. You can tell that when you buy a factory Colt Gold Cup and you cycle the slide. It is very hard to cycle the slide. So that's not a big thing for me. I did not need that. Now, I want to talk about what I did to the gun and some of the problems I had with it. You can make your own decision if you want to buy a Colt Gold Cup. It's usually people that just love Colts and they feel like they've got to have more Colts. Or in my case, it could be the man that has several 1911s, but he's a bargain basement shopper, so most of mine are TSOS. I do have one Springfield Range Officer Target model. They don't build it anymore, but I sure am happy I got it. But I wanted one Colt, so here's the Colt that I got. We'll check it empty real quick. Opened it up out of the toolbox here, check it, and put that back like it was. Let's talk about this Colt a little bit more, what I've done to it, okay? So I'm going to zoom in a little bit, talk about this Colt, why I got it, what I did to it. Now, on the forums, on the internet, you can run into all kinds of talkers, okay? And when I say talkers, I mean people that like to, they give their opinion, but they give it like it's the gospel truth and nothing can deviate from it. There are a lot of people that don't like the Colt Gold Cup because they think there's better values in the market today. When I was a kid and on my first Colt Gold Cup, they didn't have 30 or 40 different 1911 builders. You just had 3 or 4, and that was it. So you're very blessed to be in the gun market today. You can buy you a 1911 from TSOS. They follow the government standard almost exact. Their GI now is so nice that they use it at the CMP grounds for the 1911 shooting competitions. It's allowed to shoot there. It's so close to the GI. So I really like all kinds of different 1911s, but this one is a special one to me because it has that Colt name on it, Colt Gold Cup trophy. I wanted a Colt. I wanted it in stainless steel, so if it got scratched, I bring out my 2000 grit. And that's what I always do with this gun. It's going to get some scratches from holstering. I don't care if you're using Cadex or leather. You're going to eventually get a grain of sand or dust or dirt that's very abrasive in your holster, and it's going to scratch it. But with that 2000 grit, you can hit that for about 30 seconds on each side and make it look back to mirror finish. Now, these, when you get them from the factory, they do have a satin finish on them, which is a fancy way of saying sanded or grit polished in a certain direction, and I didn't like that look, so I got rid of that real quick with the 2000 grit. Now, what else did I do to the gun? Well, I told you about the spring. I took out the double recoil spring, and what I put back in it was a target spring. Now, I set this gun up as a target gun. Now, I'm going to try to answer some questions for some of my viewers, specifically Mr. Mike. We're going to get into the recoil spring, Mr. Mike, here in a minute. I've been an instructor for years, taught electronics, and one of the favorite things that I love to hear as an instructor is when a student says, man, I'm ignorant on that topic. That circuit there, I'm just ignorant on that. And it sounds like you're saying that you're dumb, but you're not dumb. Ignorant just means that you don't know something on a particular topic. And any student that says, man, I'm ignorant on that, that's what Mike told me. He said, I'm ignorant when it comes to those springs. Could you please touch on that? And I thought, man, I'm gonna touch on it quite a bit today. We're gonna drill down deep into this. One of the things that makes the 1911 so nice is that you can basically customize this gun to be whatever you want it to be. Now, in my case here, this is not going to be an EDC carry. I have polished the face of it. I took off the this checkered part on the back, the mainspring housing. It was a plastic nylon one, and I put in a EGW, and that's a 30 line or 25 line per inch. It's very aggressive, so it's a good stainless steel grip. And then I got that done, and I wanted it to be target, so I got to look at the sights. The sights are very nice. There's no problem with the sights. I think they're a Bomar type or LPI. They're fully adjustable. They are got a nice cutout in the back for it. The way they do these, it's shaded. It's serrated metal, and it's blacked. Mine's got a few shiny spots on it for me rubbing on stuff. They rounded the ears, so this is really set up good for target. In the front, when I originally got this from Colt, it had a red dot right there, and it looked like they failed on QC there. It looked as if somebody had taken it and put it on a hot stove and melted it down, and that was not a good look. So what I did was I wanted a different color. I figured, well, that was a perfect time to change color, so I bought me some green. I bought the smallest diameter that would fit in that hole, and then instead of melting it on both ends, I made a clean cut with a razor blade, and then all I did is put a little silicone, like you do for window seal. I put some clear silicone in that tube on both sides, and that holds that in place without it being, permanent installation. If I want to make a change to it, I can slip that out easy and put me in a fresh one and another little dab of silicone and back in business. So for a target gun, it is set up. Now, the problem with this gun when I started wanting to do target work was the sights are good. They're fine. I don't need a red dot on this. The trigger was terrible. The trigger on this gun from the factory was about 6.5 pounds, very gritty. It had take up, it had grit, it had very unusual feel to it, and I shot it several times, and it just got worse and worse, and I decided I was going to take a look at that a little closer, and one day I decided I was going to load this gun up in the man cave, and you're going to see a video of that here in just a minute. And all I did was I just loaded the gun, put a mag in it, let the slide go forward, and when it did, it fired the gun. At that point, I realized that my target gun needed some new parts inside. So I analyzed the parts. I'm going to show you this briefly, and we'll go into it some more later. These are the parts that I realized that I needed with that gun, okay? Now, these parts are made by Cylinder Slide, and the parts inside the Colt were what I call shrinky-dink. which is metal injection molded. These parts you're seeing in this box are the parts I took out of the gun. I have already shown them on several videos, but I'll try to go into that and attach it to this video. Anyway, I pulled these out of the Colt, and they are all junk parts. The hammer was cuts in it were way too shallow. The sear had a notch in the middle of it that's supposed to make it better than any of the old school stuff. That was also wrong. And the notches on it, it's split in the middle, were just rough. It looked like they were cut with maybe a kid in Votech school with the hacksaw. They just looked bad. The blue spring, it would not take any adjustment without just ruining it quickly. It had a standard 23-pound mainspring. I went ahead and replaced that too because it's part of the trigger kit. The little transfer right here, the one that is used disconnector, that disconnects the hammer and everything when the gun is out of battery. That also was an MIM part in the gun, and it had the little letters and numbers printed on the side of it, letting you know it was pulled out of a mold. It's a cast. When they do MIM, it is cast, but it's plastic powder mixed with metal powder, heated up into a gravy, and you put it into a extrusion machine, and a screw turns and it injects it just like you're making models, like model airplanes or little tanks or whatever. And then you crack the two halves of the mold apart, take the pieces out, and hopefully they are of good standard and good heat treat and all that. But I found these inside the Colt were junk. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it and tell you it's some other thing. They were junk, and it wasn't because I abused the gun. I didn't take it on a trip into Desert Storm. It didn't go in the ocean. It had about 300 rounds fired through it, and then the gun failed to hold the hammer. When you let the slide go forward, it had hammer follow. It would follow, but it had also completely lost its half cock. All 1911, Series 70, you pull the hammer to the rear, and let's say you make it back 3/4 of the way, and some reason your hand was greasy or weak or whatever happened, and it slips out off your thumb, that should not fire that gun because that hammer should stop at half cock. At half cock, your trigger won't move at all. It'll literally lock the trigger up. So that gun in front of you had missed that. It was gone, and that was a disappointment. I realized that wasn't going to go to a gunsmith. I'm not that kind of a person. If I have a problem, it just means it needs a solution, and I need to take care of the problem. I've got to spend enough time with these guns that I can work on them. You don't have to have a PhD in mechanical engineering to know how to take a 1911 pistol apart and to do some minor stuff, some touch-up stuff. You may not feel comfortable going in and replacing the guts on one, but if you've got a trigger issue, you're going to need to put some real trigger parts in it. And that's where cylinder and slide comes in. Wilson Combat also makes some really good trigger parts. This was just the kit that I wanted. They call it a drop-in, and I think it was rated at 4.5 pounds. It was called a tactical drop-in, but all the parts are heat treated, made properly. These are the ones I took out of the you don't get to see the ones I put in. I will tell you this much. The hole that was on the side of the sear itself was like it was cut out with a drill bit on a drill press. Again, in Votech school, a bunch of kids learning how to use a drill. That's how big and how rough that hole was that you pin that in the gun. The reason I didn't show you me installing, I didn't show you me putting the cylinder slide parts in, was they were that tight. None of them had to be filed. None of them needed any Dremel treatment. The pin just had to be lined up perfect for you to get the cross pin through to hold the sear and the disconnector. It was unbelievable how precise they got it. But now what that has given me in that gun is a good solid trigger, and we've checked the gun empty, but now you can let this go and hold it back. I'll show this to you. You can let it fall. Let's say you're cocking it and you let it go and it slips. It will stop at half cock. That is definitely not all the way down. You can see that clearly in the video. It's got a gap there. So that's where that's supposed to be. And then the trigger is it won't even hardly move at all. It's locked. Nothing will happen. So on the original Colt parts, after 300 rounds, if you let that hammer accidentally slip in your hand, it would go all the way forward like that. You would not see a gap. So very dangerous. I had that shot in my man cave, shot through the mattress, hit a steel piece of wire in the mattress, slowed it down quite a bit. It was a light round, but it hit the floor and then hit a pile of boards, and that was the end of that. But that was not an accidental discharge. It was not a negligent discharge. It was me loading a gun in the proper way, getting ready to put it in the nightstand, and I just let the slide go forward. Hit the slide release, let it go forward, and it went bang. So that made me get into testing this. I took a dummy round, put in it, and noticed that my half cock was gone, and I cycled the slide several times by hand and noticed that the hammer was following. So it was caused by defective sear and hammer engagement points. Both of those were way out of spec on the Colt Gold Cup. Now, you may not want to spend that much. If you buy a Colt Gold Cup, say, man, I could get a cheaper pistol. I could get a nice TSOS pistol, and they come with tool steel parts in them. That's true. You can do that, but it's never going to say Colt on the side of it. So I wanted one in my 1911 collection. I wanted one. And I think there's some old Marines, old Navy guys out there that feel the same way. They want to at least have a Colt. Now, if you're going to buy one new right now, they do make one that looks like the old one, but they're also making a nice stainless steel one called a Competition. It looks just like the one in front of you, except that it is literally cut for optics on the back. So if you got bad eyes, can't do the open sight thing anymore, man, you can get with O-Sight or Holosun, either one, and they make some fantastic little miniature green dots or red dots. Heads-up display. I know the one for the optic, the O-Light made the O-Sight, and the O-Sight one is an enclosed emitter. Has a glass panel in the front and the rear, which means no snowflake or piece of mud can drop down onto your LED and keep it from working. So that's good information. So the Colt Gold Cup, if you want a Colt, that is still a nice one to have. Colt Gold Cup trophy. And it was the kind of a hybrid in my case, because it's got some heavy roll marks on it here, and you can still feel those. Although I've sanded that quite a bit with 2000 grit, I can pick it up easily with my fingernail. But these are very good guns. They're solid, solid stainless steel. Here's what I noticed on mine. Mine has some black, heavy laser etching on it. You can feel it. It feels really rough to the finger. You can feel the roughness how that laser burns into that. That's definitely not roll mark. So this is laser here, and roll mark on the side there, and roll mark there. So I think I got this in the 2010 to 2016 time frame. This definitely sat in the gun store for a long time. It's a beautiful gun, but the price on it was $14.50 at my local pawn shop. It's not really a pawn shop, it's a gun shop, but they buy and sell guns, and they do layaway and all that. But I sat and looked at that, saw that for $14.50, and I thought I could buy cheaper, but it still won't be a Colt. I could buy an old beat up Colt, but it still won't be a Colt Gold Cup. So you have to figure up your dollars and figure out what your budget is. If you're a bargain shopper and you're trying to get the most 1911 out of your dollars and you're buying your first one, man, go buy a GI. Make sure you get that one that says Arms Family. That's the one you want. It's a World War II copy made by TSOS, and it'll run you under $500. And definitely, if your first pistol that's a 1911, get one of those and save your bucks up for the big boys later. This one in front of you, though, I'm still happy to have it, and now that I've got the cylinder and slide trigger parts in it, it performs very well. In fact, this gun shoots so well for me that I've got that gray filing cabinet, the same one you'll see in the video here in a minute where the gun was broken. I have shot some bullet holes in that, and I tag it in one spot and then aim at that exact same bullet hole and lace the bullet through so tight that you almost think that you missed the target. And you walk up and look at it real close, and you can see that two bullets are trying to share the same hole. One of them stretched a little bit. But I did that 3 or 4 times with it the other day, just in the bright sunshine. Had that green small fiber optic dot on the front, good clean razor blade cuts on it, and the flat black in the rear, that serrated black. It had no glare on it. And man, I'm telling you, I was shooting that old gray metal cabinet, which is kind of a fun thing to shoot. It's a real light gray, like haze gray, navy gray. And I'd shoot that hole in there and then just shoot the hole again as the target. And I did that enough times that it really made me decide I need to keep that gun and be happy with the new parts I've got in it. It does have also a new Wilson Combat guide rod. This one was the small diameter. I replaced that with what they call their bulletproof, which is stainless steel. It's not hollow. It's machined out of stainless from stem to stern and then heat treated. So that's the Colt one, the skinny one. I've got that available if somebody needs one. But I replaced that. And then the last thing that I replaced on this gun to make it roadworthy, make it worthy to carry on the farm, was this right here. This is a Colt magazine, and it says 8 right on it. And if you wanted to use that as is and only put 7 rounds in it, you'd have a pretty decent magazine. But that's not what I'm going to run in this gun. I've already had a few malfunctions with that. That's all I need to know about that. So I did replace it. I went with a Trip Research magazine. This is called the Cobra Mag. And that is a true 8-round mag. You can see that clearly when you put that up against the Colt. Lay this Colt right on top of it. They call theirs an 8-round mag. But as you can see, you get those feed lips all the same height. See that one right there on the left, which is the Cobra Mag, has room for that 8th round. So that was another mistake that Colt made. They took John Moses Browning design. His design was just like that mag. Even may have had that little dimple in it right there to hold that last round, keep it from nosediving. But anyway, his were all 7 rounds. If you needed 8, you put 1 in the chamber, 7 in the mag, you had 8 rounds. So you call it good enough. But when you start taking that same size magazine, you can tell this is a 7-round magazine because it fits flush in the gun. When you see that, it's a 7. And then Colt calls it an 8 because they're trying to keep up with the Joneses. So they said, that's an 8-round mag. You can stuff 8 of them in there. No, don't do that. You'll ruin your spring and you'll have reliability issues. So just get you either a Wilson Combat 47D or one of these Trip Research, and you can get these in a true 8-round. It sticks out of the gun just a little bit, but that doesn't hurt my feelings. This is my farm target gun, and that thing already has proven itself. And for bullets on it right now, I have decided to shoot 2 different ones. These I made for my wife. These are a 200 grain semi-wad cutter. Let's see if I can get these to stand up for you. She says, how cute are those? She said, they look like crayons. And I got looking at that tip of that, and it's been a while since I've messed with crayons. But you know what? She was right on the money. That's almost exactly the same angle, ratio, and everything. Who is that from? I bought those recently, and they reduced my price quite a bit on my reloads. That's Steel Valley Casting is who I went with that. Don't work for them. I'm just sharing my life with you, what I've done. Steel Valley Casting, called a high-tech coated. It's a 200 grain semi-wad cutter. Diameter is 452, which is what you want in cast lead. But with that high-tech coating, it won't lead your barrel up. So it likes those. And I'm shooting the 310 Vitavuri, 4.5 grains, a nice moderate load. Now, what else does this like besides those? Okay, oh yeah, I forgot about these. My wife is already starting to shoot this a lot. She loves it. This is the other round that it likes. These are the berries, 185 grain, which automatically gives you a 30% reduction in recoil. And these little berries are 185 grain round nose hollow base bullets. So they're nice rounds. The only problem with them is they're a little bit pricier than the ones from this other company, the Steel Valley Casting. They were quite a bit less. I think about 6 or 7 pennies less per shot, and that adds up when you shoot like I do. I shoot quite a bit. So don't have any sponsors, and I'm kind of glad. That doesn't bother me a bit. If somebody wanted to give me some bullets, that's fine, but we can build our own. Not a big deal. So let's take a look at those springs. I know I jumped around a little bit. I talked about the spring I got in the gun, but we're going to get into specifics of springs. So you bought you a Colt now, or let's say any 1911. The information I'm going to give you right now will be true for all of them. Any 1911s, and I'm going to stay specifically with the 45 today in this information. So the spring I've got in this gun, because it is a target gun, that means it's not an EDC. I'm not carrying it with plus P ammo. I'm not using it for home defense and trying to shoot the hottest hollow points that I can shoot through it. That's not the purpose of this gun. The gun in front of you is going to be on my farm used as a actual target gun. Open sight, no optics, open sight target gun. That's what it's going to be used for. So because of that, and you see the loads in front of you, these are light loads, light target loads. It's a 200 grain semi-wad cutter, been used for years and years and years with great success with the government 1911. The one to your right is a 185 grain. Again, a target load because it only uses 4.5 grains of my new Vitavori N310. That is a good powder. Very clean burning, very small dose is what you need to get your speed. I can get these bullets up to about 800 foot a second. So if you shot them in a target gun, there was a threaded muzzle, which I've got one of those. You can put a can on there, and at 800 foot a second, you're well below the speed of sound, so you'll get no crack. So that's something to keep in mind. So the spring that the gun has in it now is the spring that you see on your far left. Let me see if I can find my pointer. My pointer today is going to be a screwdriver. That's a good pointer. So this spring right here that you see on your far left is a Wolf variable rate spring, and it is a 12 pound. Now some people think that's way too light, but they are losing the fact that the spring is not just a recoil spring for you to see how much recoil that they can manage on you. That's not the purpose of that spring. When John Moses Browning built this, he wasn't just calling it a recoil spring. That spring was used to load the gun. So it recoiled, it controls the slide speed, but it also has the job, its main job is to put the next live round into the chamber. So what people think is they think if you drop this poundage down that low, then it's not going to have enough horsepower to put the ammo in the gun. That's not true at all. If you've got a good magazine, your gun is oiled. It's not a combat. This is not a combat situation. It's very clean. It's oiled. Sometimes I put a little lightweight grease on my rails because stainless steel tends to want to gall itself. It doesn't like itself that much. But anyway, yeah, raw stainless to raw stainless, that's a bad mix. You got to have lubrication. Thin coat of my Birchwood Casey's just gun grease, plain gun grease, does a good job on that. So if the gun's greased up, your chamber is polished, you've got the right size of ammo, in other words the nose is the right length and the right curvature and all that, it should load fine. And 12 pounds is the poundage that you read on that spring with that gun locked all the way to the rear. That's what that means when you see that poundage. So 12 pounds, is a lightweight. What it does is this end that's got all the coils, this is the one that's out towards the muzzle. And with all those smaller coils in it, when you first fire the gun, these are the ones that are going to compress first. So it lets it come to the rear nice and slow and easy, and then speeds up. And as it speeds up, gets to the rear, you've got all the spring working to stop that slide and put it back into battery to go forward and pick up the next round. So 12 pound is fine. It is for these target loads, okay? So the spring and the loads got to go together. This is for Mr. Mike. You're wanting to know which spring and why this and why that. These rounds that you shoot here, however much power you've got them set at, is the amount of spring that you need, okay? So now let's pretend, we'll get these out of the picture. Let's pretend that we're going to use this in just a straight military application. We don't do any polish, no anything on it, no special treatments, no new parts, just keeping it all GI, okay? And you're going to shoot regular ball ammo. Let's say that's what this is here. If you're shooting a government GI, it's got ball ammo, 230 grain ball ammo, going to come out of the tube at about 840 foot a second, and a full 230 grain, full metal jacket round. If that's what you're shooting in a government style gun, then the spring you need is this standard GI spring. The 16 pound GI standard spring, that's the one right here. In my case, I believe that this one is a progressive because I bought it from Wolf. But anyway, the poundage is still 16 pounds. And but you can get that in a regular GI, or you can get it in the variable rate, either way. But 16 pounds has been used for 100 years. Don't need to make any changes if you're just shooting Winchester white box, standard military type ammunition. Ball ammo, 230 grain. That's going to be your spring that you want right there. Right there. It's going to be the right power level. It's going to give you the highest reliability. So what about this spring? This is for target loads. This 12 pound will give you plenty of reliability as long as everything is proper on your load. If you get the load too low or too high, you're going to slam the frame if it's too high on the load. If it's too low on the load, it might not have enough to even bring that back. I've seen people take that down to 10 pounds, believe it or not. So this is for target. This is for general purpose standard military load. GI, that's why I got GI right there. And that's government issue. If you didn't know what GI was, that's what, when you get in the military and march around a boot camp eating their chow and wearing their clothes, you'll feel exactly like that, like your government issue. So the next one, which is becoming a very popular spring, is for carry for your EDC work. Now, usually on EDC, what you've got, people will buy guns that have tighter tolerance than the old GI gun. They want to show off a little bit, flex at the parties and show their guns and say, man, look how tight this sliding frame is, so tight. They do that, and then you need some more spring. Or they shoot a plus P plus, the hottest load that they can buy at their local gun store, and they go up above the pressure that this spring right here is designed to handle. So they take it all the way up to the true 21,000 pounds of pressure, where this one was probably running about 18,000 on a standard GI load. They get up to that 21 or 22 or 23,000, maybe go a little over book spec, and now you got a slide that's going to come to the rear hard, harder than a standard GI ball ammo. So since the slide is coming to the rear harder, which means faster, same amount of mass, velocity squared times mass, you can calculate how much energy it generates. But anyway, more energy with the carry ammo, plus P or plus P plus cartridges. You need that 18 or 18.5. It's becoming popular. You'll see a 0.5. They're even doing that on 16 now. Wolf's new spring, you buy from them, and I think one from Wilson Combat also, they call it a 16.5. They're thinking probably is by the time it takes a set, and you leave the slide racked open, leave it overnight a couple times like that, you're going to lose a half pound, so it'll still be a 16 pound spring. So 16, 16.5, you'll see that. 18, and 18.5 is really popular. Now, I don't show it here because I don't want to show every spring in the world, but the next step up from that is what TSOS puts in all their guns. They run about a 20-pound or 22-pound in all their government-sized guns, and that's way too much. I take that out first thing, and I go back to this right here. If I'm going to use it in a standard application, if I use it in a target, I'm going this route right here. Wolf variable rate, 12 pound. And you're just not going to go wrong with that. Now, the one on the far right is the one I took out of the gun. Like I say, I don't know the poundage on it. It feels like about a 20, just going by feeling, and I've cycled a few thousand guns in my life, so I know what 20 pounds feels like. I might be off by 19.5 or 20 and a half, 21, who knows, but it feels like about 20. I don't need a Colt new style dual spring, so I went back in it at first with the GI standard. That's what I had when I had it as a carry gun for a short period of time, and then the Wolf variable rate came on board when this got swapped over to a target gun. So now you're looking at a target gun, and I'm starting to lean towards, I'll mix these bullets together, have my wife sort them out. I'm really starting to lean towards this semi-wad cutter, and the main reason is whatever I shoot on the farm, paper or cardboard or sheet metal. I got an old dryer out there I shoot sometimes, got an old filing cabinet I shoot. Anyway, when you shoot it with semi-wad cutter, it cuts a really nice clean hole. I do like that. I like the clean hole. So what you're going to see next, we covered the gun. We talked about all the factors that went into a few changes on it. No modifications really, just changed out some parts. They don't like that on YouTube. You're not supposed to modify anything. So I'm telling you clearly, all we did was replace it and get it closer back to what John Moses Browning wanted, with some tool steel parts inside the gun. We got rid of the shrinky dink parts. We got the plastic mainspring housing off the back. I did also put in the new spring from Cylinder Slide. I think they run about a 23. It may be a little less than that. Now I'm going to give you a word to the wise on this, a warning. If you start playing with that mainspring in there, which is the one that controls your hammer, do not lighten that up real light if you're going to use it as a carry gun. If you're out in the yard, you're using this as a target gun, you could drop that mainspring from a 23 down to a 20. I've even seen people drop them down to 18. That just means you can cycle the gun a little smoother. You can cock the hammer a little easier. And some people like it too, because if they're doing fast shooting, it tends to keep the gun more level when it's going forward. It's not hitting as hard. Same way on a recoil spring. A heavy recoil spring and a heavy hammer spring both can hurt you on your double taps. It makes them look pretty spread out in a hurry. So thank y'all for watching that. I hope that you like the new Colt Gold Cup trophy. I know it's not everybody's forte, but if you did want a Colt, that's a very nice one to have. And like I told you, their new competition model is pretty nice because it does have the optic cuts on it. But I'm going to give you one little thought here before we jump away. A lot of people, they don't realize this. They see the Colt, they see a few problems on it, they turn their head away from it, they decide they don't want it. But I'm going to tell you, when I was a kid, many years ago, about 50 years ago, and started getting into hot rodding and watching people getting into hot rodding, I saw everybody and their brother was building 350 Chevy small blocks. Well, that gun in front of you is the 350 Chevy small block of guns, because everybody likes to modify them, they like to tune them, they like to get more horsepower out of them, just like the old hot rods. But in my day, if a man could get a hold of an LT1, that was the engine, LT1 by Chevrolet, it was a 350 cubic inch, 350 horse. They called it a 350/350. And what made that a good engine was it had a solid cast iron block, you had a solid forged crankshaft, you had the 4-bolt mains on it that held the bottom end real good and solid, and then it also had the bigger valves in the head, the 202. All your standard engines had the 194s, and the bigger horsepower ones had a 2.02 intake. I learned at a young age that the V8 engine's nothing more than a air pump. That's all it is. You got to pump a lot of air through it and get it out the tailpipe, mix the gas in, you got more horsepower. More air, more horsepower. So here's the analogy here. With this gun in front of you, if you buy a Colt Gold Cup and it has a few hiccups, a few issues, let's say you have to spend $115 and get you a kit like that, okay? Let's say you have to do that and you're saying, man, I spent $1,400. I should not have to spend another penny on that gun. Well, there's a bunch of kids back in my day. They'd get that 350 engine, and boy, it wouldn't be any time they'd say, man, I'd like to get me some aluminum heads for it. And they wanted to make that thing really breathe. Or said, man, I'm gonna get me a double pumper carburetor. Or I'm gonna put me a new high lift camshaft in there. I want one that's got a 1/2 inch of lift, long duration, make that lopey sound. People they constantly add to it, and that's the way it is with this gun. You spend $1,400 on it, just like you buy a brand new truck. Don't be surprised if you're out there buying a new bed liner for it or a bumper guard or something like that. Same way with the Colt Gold Cup. You get the gun and you say, man, it's so nice. It's a Colt Gold Cup trophy. I'm not going to touch a thing on it. And there's people like that. They turned into their safe queen. They buy a little purple pillow and they polish it every night and give it a little kiss before they go to bed, and they lay it in there and they never shoot it. They're never going to know that the parts inside it are absolute junk. But I know that. I know that, and I shared it with you. I didn't sugarcoat it. Didn't pull any punches on that. These parts are the junk parts that came out of the gun. But this is the company. And this is the little kit that I bought for about I think it was 120 bucks delivered to the house. But by doing that, now my half cock is back. My sear is good and solid. I have a very crisp trigger. It came like the book said it would be at 4.5. I adjusted on the leaf spring here just a little bit and got the exact 3-pound trigger that I was looking for. So I got the gun exactly like I want it now. So how can I compare that to that engine? Well, back in the day, like I said, if you got a block, that'd be like your lower, and you got a good crankshaft, that's the round part down the middle, that'd be like a match grade barrel. And then you got the upper portion of it. You had 2 good heads that were had the 2-inch 202 valves in it. Then you got a good head, and then you went from that and started adding stuff onto it. Your carburetor, your fuel lines, whatever kind of ignition you wanted to make hotter spark. We were back in the days when we ran dual point distributors, if you could imagine that. They didn't even have HEI yet. But same thing here. You got a good frame. You got a very good slide, and it's a match grade, and a match grade barrel, and all the parts are forged. So if you've got those 3 parts and they're in good shape, the rest of it is just small things. I mean, the grip safety on these is good. The safety was good. It was good, solid safety. The locking pin here that goes through, they call it slide release or slide lock pin. That's in good shape. It was a solid steel part. The optics are very good. Other than I switched that over to a green. Barrel bushing, you could tighten it a little bit if you wanted to. I played with that. It didn't make much difference because the gun is locking up the same every time. So you can have a little tolerance on a gun as long as it comes to a stop in battery, and it's always the same. And they'll still shoot more accurate than most humans can. So the next video that you're going to see that gun go off. And remember, this gun in front of you is the fixed gun, but I'm going to show you what it looked like when things went bad. I could have given up on it, could have thrown it in the trash, could have taken it to a gunsmith and said, hey man, I'm going to burn a bunch of money and make this thing all right, and that would have been a bad move. Some people may have to do that. If you don't have any mechanical ability at all, then take it to a gunsmith. But most 1911 shooters are thinkers, and they're mechanical type people. A lot of them are military type people, law enforcement, or just really gun nuts from hanging around with gun people, reading a lot of gun magazines. They've read a lot of stories on the 1911, very rich history, 2 world wars and 100+ years of history. And still going strong. Lots of companies out there still building the Colt Gold Cup. So y'all stand by for the next video. I'm going to go ahead and attach you 2 videos on here. One will be what most people call accidental discharge of that gun in front of you, back when it had the junk parts in it. So you'll see that. And then the next one, I will show you a TSOS Raider. And I can take all the parts out of them, lay them out, and show you all the parts, and then reinstall them. And they're just like these. They're good, solid tool steel parts. So if you have a question on how to put parts in, you'll get to see me do that on the Raider. I didn't do it on this because it was such a tight tolerance. It wasn't camera worthy. But like I say, you'll see this thing go bang accidentally, and then you'll see the video on how to put one of these back together detailed with a nice trigger kit. So over and out for now. Okay, my friends, today I'm going to take this nice high-dollar Gold Cup trophy that is stuffed full of soft MIM parts, and I'm going to show you why I don't use MIM parts in my guns. And say, well, he spent $1,400 on that thing. Surely it should be ready to go. Let's have a look and see how ready it is. It's only been fired about 300 times and started having some problems. So here we go. Now I want you to notice something. Look carefully. This is a training video for safety. 1, see right here, pinky. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fingers. See that carefully? I'm not going to use a trigger finger. See this magazine right here? Magazine, 1 round. Here we go. Putting it in the gun. And I'm going to hold it close to that metal cabinet so you can see what's happening right here. Okay, see the metal cabinet's got some holes, but right where I'm pointing, there's no hole. All I'm going to do is let the slide go, okay? Watch carefully. Oh, nothing happened. That's good. Let's try it again. Trying again, round number 2. Notice again, all 5 fingers are in view, keeping them in view. All I'm doing is letting the slide go. Slide stop. Here we go. Oh boy, look at that. You see that all my fingers are still on the grip of that gun. All I did is let the slide go. Notice how it handled the round too. That's the effect of having a sear that's made out of shrinky-dink material. And I have taken this gun completely apart to show that. Here's another thing you need to learn right now. Say, well, you didn't even pull the trigger. Nope, I did not pull the trigger. Watch this. Another thing to add to your repertoire of things to know. This is a Colt Gold Cup. Watch this. I'm going to click the hammer back. Gun's now empty, and we're going to set it on half cock. I made it 3/4 of the way. Here we go. Set on half cock. Did not fall to half cock. All right, let's go back to 7/8 and let it fall. That would fire that gun, my friend. The half cock on this has wore out after 300 rounds. It bypasses the half cock. Fully cocked, it works fine, but there is no half cock, and I'm going to demonstrate to you why that is so important. We will break out the nice TSOS Raider, the brand new Raider that's stuffed full of steel parts, real machine parts, and you'll see it has a half cock. And when you get in half cock mode, you can pull the trigger and everything on that gun's locked up. So I hope you enjoyed that. You see the bullet hole right there. That is a bullet hole from a Colt Gold Cup without pulling the trigger. All I did was let that slide go with the slide release, also known as the slide stop. And a couple of days ago, I had the privilege of doing that in my home. And I was pointing in a nice safe direction, went through the mattress and through the other side of the mattress, skidded off the floor and landed in a big pile of boards, and nobody was hurt. But I was following all my rules of engagement on a pistol, and that is always pointing in a safe direction. So this Colt Gold Cup is going to get all those soft MIM shrinky-dink parts out. You will see an exploded picture of those parts laid out with one of my special apps on my phone, where you get to see it up close and personal. It won't be microscopic, but you'll be able to easily see that the factory parts that come in a Colt Gold Cup are substandard junk. You do not want to use them if you want to keep this gun in good shape. So I'll show you how to take some parts from Cylinder and Slide, some from Wilson Combat. We will soup this bad boy up and make it be what it is supposed to be, what John Moses Brown intended. So over and out for now. Here you are back at Shoot Fire with Ashley, and today we're going to look at a gun to put it back together. Everybody says, oh man, you can't take your guns apart on YouTube, so I thought we would start with one all blown apart like it swallowed a hand grenade and look at the steps to put one back together. Some people are very scared of taking a gun apart. They feel like only a person that has a PhD and a 10-year license in gunsmithing and all that is what you have to work on these, but none of that's true. What you need is a good set of instructions. You need some patience. You need some good coffee and no strong stuff. Don't want any Jim Beam or Jack Daniels when you're working on guns. That is for sure. You need some music. Today we've got Gangster's Paradise. Let me turn that up for you. The reason I'm picking this today is it has a metronome to it. Has some good classical violin work in the background. Got a special beat to it for putting a gun together. This will keep you on pace, on track. So I'm going to just use this as an introduction. We'll post this here in just a few minutes. But you can see what I've got laid out. I've got a slide here to the left. I have a frame here, a lower to the right. Some people call it a receiver. It's a frame for the 1911. I've got one grip that's off. You have to have that off if you have an ambidextrous safety, because your safety's in two pieces. And the only way to hold the one on the right-hand side of the gun is to cover it with a grip panel. So you can see the parts laid out there. And I will let you take the time to take your gun apart and lay the parts out exactly like that, like you see. You may or may not have this threaded barrel. This particular one is a TSOS Raider, and I bought one with all the options that you could get. It has the equipment rail here on the bottom, like that. It has the threaded barrel, and it also has my favorite option of all on this. The reason I bought this, I didn't want to cut up all my fancy 1911s. It has the optic cut that is set up for a 507K, or in my case, I'm going to try out one of the new Olight brands, one of their new O-sights, and we'll have a look at them. So, hope you enjoy this video. This is only an introduction, and we'll see if the music bothers anybody and makes them run away. That theme song of this music is supposed to be license free. We'll see how YouTube does with it. But this came from the movie Green Hornet, which I love. When they got in a custom car the first time to go out and fight crime on the street, this is the song they started playing. This is to show my younger crowd out there that I'm not completely a fuddy-duddy. So enjoy, and see ya after the introduction on what we will call part number 2 coming up next. Over and out for now. Today we are going to continue the process of taking care of the problem with the Colt Gold Cup, and I haven't got the new parts in yet, but I wanted to show you, in case you are far ahead of me. Let's say that you have a new modern gun, but it has some MIM parts in it, metal injection molding parts, and you've decided those are too soft for you. Maybe you've had a failure of one of those parts. You would like to upgrade and make your 1911 into a real fighting pistol, one that you could use as an EDC, an everyday carry, one that you could trust to protect you and your loved ones. But you just don't want the shrinky-dink, soft MIM parts on the inside. These were made for quick production and also to lower the cost for production. They don't lower your costs, but Colt charged $1,400 for a Colt Gold Cup trophy, and it lowers their costs. They keep the profit in their pocket. So we're going to bypass that. We don't want any DEI type parts. We don't want any MIM. We want the real thing. So today What I've got in front of you is a TSOS Raider, and we're going to work on putting in the first two hardest parts by far for somebody that's very nervous or has not ever worked on a pistol before, and you've got it all apart, you got your new parts in, you're ready to put it back together. This is how we're going to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in, and I'm going to zoom in on two parts. We're going to make it 2 or 3 parts that we're going to put in. I'm going to move my camera over a little bit, and I'm going to get right down to these pieces, okay? Here we go. Zooming in, moving, zooming, moving, zooming. And we're going to get real close and personal with what we're going to work on. Okay. So I'm going to point them out, and then you're going to see these even much closer than this. But we want to look at 2 pieces here. I want to identify them, name them, talk about them for just a minute. The first piece I'm going to talk about is this one that you see right here. It has a probe. It's proboscis. Has a probe here on the top. It has a paddle, a flat part on the bottom that you can see right there. That is called a disconnector. This is something John Moses Browning, when he designed this gun, he was an absolute genius. He did not have digital logic at the time, didn't have any circuitry involved, didn't need it. But he made this little disconnector piece make a digital type decision. It makes a decision of a 1 or a 0. It can either disconnect the trigger, turn it into a 0 where it doesn't work at all, or it could become a binary 1, which that means this allows the trigger to work. So it either disconnects you or does not. That is your disconnector, and he makes a decision based on whether your slide is all the way forward in battery, or if it's cocked to rear, or maybe even slightly out of battery. It can keep the gun from firing. If it's in battery, it can allow the gun to fire. That is your disconnector. You can see him right there. You got a hole in the side, probe on one end, and a flat boat paddle looking part on the back side. The next piece, this piece right here, is the sear. This is the knife edge portion, and this is what is actually holding on to the hammer itself. And I'm going to pull this hammer strut out of the way. Let's get this where you can see all these parts. I want you to see how they work together. This is the sear. The sear goes in the frame of the gun. The disconnector is going to be saddling the disconnector. And this piece is what its little claw, like if you had your hand like that, its claw is what's going to hold the hammer in place, either half cock or fully cock. And then when you push the trigger, you're kicking this out of the way and letting the hammer fall. So this is the sear. This is the part you'd be getting from Wilson Combat, EGW, or Cylinder and Slide, some good top-notch company that makes a tool steel part, and that's what we want to put back in the gun. We want to get rid of the MIM shrinky-dink, metal injection molding, and we want to put in a new disconnector, and we want to put in a new sear, S-E-A-R. I've got my table all set up today just specially for you, for people that want to learn how to do this. And the other piece we're going to work on, this is where we're going to start. When you're putting the gun back together, you need to have a frame. Now, some people call it a receiver, but it's not really a receiver. Receiver is something that you have on a rifle. So this is the lower frame, not a receiver, the lower frame of the gun. And you're going to see me handling that. That's what we're going to build on. It's the foundation that you build your 1911 on. Everything starts there and goes up from there. So again, let's review this real quick before we grab pieces and start up. We're going to start with the very beginning of this is going to be those 2 little pieces right there. The one with the probe and the little boat paddle, that is your disconnector. The one that looks like your hand shaped like a C, that is your sear. That's the part that rides against the hammer. So those 2 pieces are what we're going to install first. I'm going to teach you how to unitize those and hold them in your hand where one is over the other. And we're going to stab them into the back of the gun. It's very easy if you know what to do. And I'm going to grab up the pieces that we need to get this job done, and we'll switch over to the other camera. And you can see what I got here in my hand. That is the frame. So let's review this just real quick before we get started putting these pieces in. We will be using the trigger today. We will have it in motion a little bit to position the parts so we can pin them. We will be pinning. I'm going to show you where the pin goes. Go ahead and grab the pin. It is a fairly small pin and it has a flat head on one end, and the other end is just a good straight pin. It has a slight rounded edge to it. So that's the pin. Let's talk about where it's going to go. I'm going to do all this in slow motion today. This is where the pin's going to go, is in that hole right there. We're going to be pinning two parts. All right, let's look at the two pieces. Go ahead and lay the frame down. Remember the name of the two pieces. Pick them up and put them in the palm of my hand. The first one is going to be this little guy right here. It kind of looks like your hand in a C shape, and that is your sear, S-E-A-R. See the sear right there? Your trigger bow will push on the back side of it right there, and this little claw is what's going to engage the notches in the hammer. It has two notches in the back of the hammer. It has a full cock. That's when you're all the way back to the rear and you can put your gun on safe. Or if you're cocking the hammer and it gets away from you during the cocking process, this can also catch the half cock on the hammer. And that's how I knew that I had a problem with my Colt, as it started failing. So this part was made in the Colt out of MIM, Shrinky Dink. You can look that up on Google and you'll find out what Shrinky Dink is. But MIM stands for metal injection molded, and we don't want those parts. So this is an actual tool steel part. It's what TSOS uses, called a sear. Now, let's have it right there. Keep it there. Let me grab up the next piece on the camera here. The next piece is going to be the logical part that Mr. John Moses Browning made that can do a binary decision for you, a 1 or a 0, and that is your disconnector. See that disconnector right there? He has a proboscis on one end that's going to go up through the hole. Imagine that. It has a place that the pin is going to go through right there. And on the back side, it has what looks like a boat paddle. And that flat paddle right there is what's going to go directly against the bow, the backside, flat side of your trigger. So when you're pulling the trigger linear on a 1911, you're pushing on that flat right there and making things operate. So let's see how these go together. So the way it's going to go in the gun, the flat side needs to go down like that, okay? So flat side down. Then you pick this little guy up here. This is our sear. Watch how easy this is. Everybody can do this if you know what to do. So then you pick that up. It's going to saddle. Watch him ride down. Ready? Here he goes. This is pretty tricky, especially when you're trying to do it on camera. And you drop that like that. Look how easy that is, man. That is not that hard. Now, when I've got this zoomed way in. I'm sorry for the movement, but it amplifies my hand movement a bunch, okay? Let me zoom out just a little bit. Maybe it'll make it a little bit easier. Okay, so there's our piece. So now what I'm going to do is use this hand, got an index finger and a beat up thumb, and we're going to grab these like that, okay? Reach in here and grab it and unitize it. So you're going to hold it together. Those pieces are going to stay together just like that, okay? So then we're going to bring the frame of our gun. I'm going to move this over, get it out of the way for just a split second here. Don't give up on me. We're going to bring this gun frame in here. Watch this. Now watch my reference, what we're doing. We're going to turn him over like that, pointing down. And we're going to look right up his backside here. See if we can find a hole there. There it is, man. See that? Okay, see if I can get this at an angle that we can really see it good. Look at that. I got my special lights I borrowed from my wife's fish tank. And there is the bow I was talking about. See if you push the trigger right here. All right, push the trigger. See the trigger right there? That moves a bow, which has a flat plate on the back of it. Stainless steel bow. And there's your flat plate. That's going to be what operates these two pieces that we're installing. Okay, so here we go with the install. Ready? We're going to sneak up on it like we're an astronaut, and it's going to come flying in. Look at that. There's the two pieces. Remember, I got them unitized in my hand. You got a proboscis right there. We've got the sear, which is the part that catches the hammer. And you can't see the the boat paddle part because it's between my fingers. So this probe is going to go. You got to go slow on this because I don't want to mess you all up. Okay, there's a little bit better picture right there, okay? So there's the frame, there's the hole, and you can see the bow on the back of that would be actually physically the back of the trigger, okay? So here comes the pieces. Try not to shade it too much. That piece has got to go down in that hole. It's going to go down the hole, and then I'm going to turn slowly and let it lay down in there. And look how easy that lays. Now, you can do that with tweezers, but it's hard to hold two pieces. So it's very important that that little flat piece right there slide up. See where I put him? Little boat paddle. It's got to go right on the back of that trigger bow. See right there? Now, you can put your index finger right there and hold that all together. You do not want that to get underneath that plate. You want to hold it right there. Let's check the top. We'll see the disconnector is sticking up a little bit. Now, this is where it gets tricky. We have got to get all that stuff lined up where you can see through the hole. I'm going to zoom in some more. We're going to get absolutely crazy zoomy with this. Now, I'm holding that in place, and then I'm putting my finger on the trigger. And what you got to do is you got to get it where you can see a hole that is clear, okay? All the way clear. Now watch this. Okay, now watch carefully on this. I'm moving the pieces, the two pieces I had laid in there. I can wiggle them up and down a little bit, okay? Now see it move up and down? Now the trick is you got to move it up and down in there a little bit, but you also move the trigger. Then you can rock the piece that your finger is on, and when you get everything just right, you will see the most amount of light, okay? And then you hold it right there. Don't move anything. Get your pin. Come on, pin. Show yourself off till you get that pin to start to go down in there, okay? Then, and it seems like you can't do it, but just about the time you think that you can't, it'll go, okay? Once that pin goes down in there, here's your next test. Roll it over very carefully. I'm going to expand back out so I don't drive all my crazy people more crazy. And we roll it over. And don't roll over too far. Just roll over enough. You can put your hand over that pin and roll over and make sure that your pieces can't come back out, okay? All right, once those are in there like that, they can't come back out, you're sure of it, go ahead and push your trigger up and down a little bit. I like to do that too. Make sure the pieces are captured. You got them pinned. Then once you get to that point, you are done with that phase. That's the hardest part on a 1911. Say, what is next? I'm going to try to show you the hammer all in one whack. So we'll grab the hammer, and we'll grab the other pin. Now, this part, now, when you do this now, it's kind of important to remember this. Always keep it, you're working on the driver's side of the gun. Always keep it with that pin facing down. If you're a nervous Nelly, you can put you a little piece of tape over that if that'll help you. But let's look at how this hammer's going to go in. This is super easy. Here comes the hammer. The hammer's easy. This is big. This is like caveman stuff, okay? Where does the hammer go? Well, it can't go right there because that's where your grip safety is going to go. So the hammer, is going to go up here. Look at that. Boy, I mean, I got it lined up. That's really easy. This part is easy. So I'm going to lay it over just a little bit. This is harder to do on camera than anything else. And grab my pin. Let's see if I can do all this on camera. I don't know if I can do that or not, but I'm going to try. I'm going to say I can. And wiggle the hammer just a little bit. Look at that pin. See that pin trying to go down? Watch this. Boom. Let's get him down. Pin down. Look at that. All right, now I'm going to put my finger over both of them, and I'm going to grab this hammer and see if I actually got him. Boy, I did. Look at that. He's in there. He is captured. He cannot get away. Now, you can make sure your tail is up like that. Notice I got my finger over both pins. Don't let the pins get away. put the tail up, and then make sure that hammer's free to move. And now that part is done. So we got the two hardest parts on the 1911 gun are put in, and you got to see it here. About drove me crazy. It's so easy to do this. Once you do it, you ought to probably do it about 3 or 4 times. Get everybody away from you, the kids, the wife, the dogs, everybody, just get everything away, turn the news off, turn the TV off, turn the phone off, and just do it 3 or 4 times by yourself and study the pieces and see how they work. And once you get good at that, that is by far the hardest part of the 1911. If you want more of a challenge, do it and try to film it and get the lighting just right. And then we'll see how you do. Let me know how you do on that. So we're done with that part, and we will see you back on the next section here in just a few minutes. Over and out for now. So we just completed putting in the sear and the disconnector, the two hardest parts, and then finished off with the hammer. So we're just reviewing that's where we were at last, and now we're going to go to the next step. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on the parts that we're going to do next. Some people get a little bit confused as to which goes next. So what I do is think about the theory of operation. We've got a sear, and it's just flopping around in there. We've got a disconnector. It's also just flopping around in there. And they both need some spring action. So we need a spring to put on them. And that puts us out here on this thing that we're going to call a sear spring. Now, if you order one of these, that's what they're going to call it. It is the one there on your left-hand side. Let me zoom right in the center on it. And it is 3 tines or 3 legs. You can call it that. It has 3 different springs, but to make it easy to build, they basically just took a piece of spring steel, put the curve in it, and then it gets machined out. So you've got 3 different prongs there, 3 different legs, 3 different tines, whatever you prefer to call them. I call them 3 different legs. We got one on the far left-hand side. I'm going to give you a blown-up view of this. The far left-hand one is going to be the one that's responsible for the sear itself. That is the C-shaped one that has the blade on it. It has 2 little square steps on the bottom, and one of those square steps is going to get that pushing against it to push it in and hold it. It will pivot upon its pin axes. It's in the frame, and that will kick it up against the hammer, and the hammer will latch onto that. So that one on the far left is responsible for the sear, keeping it latched into the hammer. The one in the middle also helps with that. That one is going to be pushing on the disconnector. It will also aid with keeping everything locked up good. Make sure the disconnector stays pushed up and forward. And then the one on the far right-hand side, that is going to be for your grip safety only. He does not come into play as far as any tension on the trigger, but he is a very important player to make sure that that gun cannot go off. And he is the only one of the 3 springs that is pushing outboard. So he pushes out and up towards your grip safety and keeps it out. If you're not pushing on the grip safety, that 3rd spring on your right-hand side, he's the one responsible. Keep that grip safety pushed out. So those are things you can check too. If you ever have a grip safety that's a little bit soft and just doesn't feel like it's hardly there at all, it's probably going to be a problem with that little spring. That means he sprung in too much. Somebody bent it during installation. So this is going to be our next step, is to put that in place. And I'm going to zoom in with my other camera so that you get to see where that's going. And I'll lay this out here so that you can see it on the gun real quick, and then we'll zoom in on the other camera. So we're going to be going into the back of the gun. You remember we just got through putting in the sear and the disconnector in the sear. You can't see the sear now because the hammer, the roundness of the body of the hammer covers it up, and it latches into the front of that hammer. So you're not going to see the sear now. He's on hidden operations. He's on top secret mission now to hold the hammer in place. But the only way he can hold that hammer is he got to have some spring pressure to push down, and then as you pull that hammer to the rear, you'll feel it begin to latch up and lock that hammer, either the half cock or the fully cocked position. So one of our springs has to push on the 2 steps that you see there. There's 2 square steps. Like I say, we're going to zoom in a minute, but 2 square steps. He'll push on the far left-hand side of those 2 square steps. And then the center one will push on the one that looks like a boat paddle. It's laying on the trigger itself. You can clearly see it. That one that looks like the boat paddle, remember, it has the long probe that sticks up in the middle. Proboscis right there. And that probe is your disconnector. So it's a probe on one end, a boat paddle on the other, and the trigger pushes directly against it. So when you're pulling the trigger, that is stage 1. On any 1911, when you pull that trigger, you will feel a point there where you got about 1 pound to 2 pounds of take up, and then you'll feel a wall, and then that's your sear, and then it breaks. But that first take up that you do is that disconnector, which is your center of the 3 springs, the center prong. So now let's look at these up close and personal. I'll leave this one right here, and we'll add another video to it. And we're going to put this spring in. So here's the next piece we're going to install, is this nice sear spring. 3 leaves. We'll put them in the gun, and then we got to have a way to hold them. How could we hold those? Well, we'll go ahead and grab that piece up. We have to have something that will slide up into a track to hold that spring and lock it into place, and that's going to be that piece right there. So I might as well have it in hand. And that is the mainspring housing. This particular one is a military one. It has a loop on it. That mainspring housing has inside it, internally, a mainspring. That mainspring is what's used to operate the hammer. So mainspring is down inside there. It has a cup. The hammer strut is going to ride down in that cup. It has a little bitty micro pin right there. That little pin goes through the mainspring housing and holds that cup and spring in place. You can see it right there. So if you want to drive it out, you'd have to pressurize that, take a small punch and punch right there, and you can get that out. The flat, one side of the pin has a flat on it. So we're going to leave this in place. This is a factory mainspring housing for the nice TSOS Raider. So we're going to use that. What that'll do is that will ride over this spring. It has a clip that's going to go in place, but you have to kind of fish these in first, get them in place, and then the clip goes in. If you put the clip down first into the frame and then try to lower that down, you won't have enough room. This is going to strike against part of the gun. So let's look at this now on our small micro camera over here. So now we got our frame in place, and we'll look at this a little bit closer. I'm going to pull the hammer out of the way, and let's look right up inside there. Got my special lighting in place again. My wife was kind enough to let me use her fish tank stuff. And let's go ahead and zoom this in a little bit so we can get even more detailed analysis. This spring, the sear spring, the 3-legged spring, is going to lay in this area right here. You can see a little slot right there. That slot is going to be what this tab is going to go in. This 3-prong spring has that little tab cut in it. Now, the mistake a lot of people make when they're putting one of these together, if they've never done it before, is they look at that big opening right there for the mainspring housing. They bring their spring on board like this, and they flop it down in there, and they shoot for that first. That's the way you don't do it, because when you do that, you won't have enough room sometimes to get those pieces, and they'll get hung up. So a better way to do it, see if I can get all this on camera for you, is take your 3 springs, 3 prongs, your sear spring. If you ever order one of these from Wilson Combat or anybody else, they call it a sear spring. You kind of fish the 3 into the works first like that, and make sure they're laying on everything, and then after you do that, you can put the slot down. So just lay it in there like that. It's super easy to do, but just make sure when you look inside there. Now let's look at these carefully. Remember, the one on the far left, he is going to be on one of the square steps, and that is your sear. The center one is going to be going against the disconnector. You can see that right there when I try to pull the trigger. it's trying to push on that one. And then this last one on your far right hand side is only going to be responsible for your grip safety. So now we've got it in place. Double check down here on the slot. Make sure that it is in the little notch there. That's in place. This is in place. So the next step is go ahead and grab up your mainspring housing. I'm going to do this where you can see the whole thing. The mainspring housing comes into play. He's got two male tracks, one on each side. Female slot's right here, so we're going to put him in place. So here we go, and once I get up and over that and start to feel a little tension, then I'm safe right there. You can stop everything you're doing, because the next step is going to be, we've got to be able to get a grip safety in there. So let's go ahead and drop the spur down. This is the little leg on the back of the hammer. Let's get him lined up. All right, I'm going to pull that mainspring housing down just a little bit. This is where you don't want a bunch of magnets involved, because if you magnetize all this stuff, it's never going to want to work for you. So I dropped the mainspring housing down just a skosh, and a little, see if we can get that strut in there. Get in there, boy. All right, so him is floating around. This is so much fun to do on camera, I tell you, it's unreal. So, see, centered up, okay? And you can check it visually, make sure it's centered. And then you can be able to push it, okay? I'm going to stop doing all that right now. And that's this little guy right here. You've got to put him in place because you won't be able to get your grip safety in. So, it has small end and a big end. You want to put the small end in that hole and get him in there first, get him out of the way. And make sure him is up there safe like that. So now he's in place. That operates the slide lock on one end, goes into it, and it goes into the thumb safety on the other. This is what gives you your crisp thumb safety. Now, if you happen to buy one of these guns, T-Sauce, sometimes that'll be a little bit soft. You can buy that one little plunger, 2 ends and the spring from Wilson Combat, get you a heavy duty one, and it will make that a little bit more crisp. So, let's go ahead and put this in place. We're going to put this this grip safety in place, bring it on board, and it's going to go. Now notice it has 2 little notches on the bottom of it, and those have to go in between there, right underneath that mainspring housing. So we'll put these in place. I like to get it started up here and make sure it goes into the frame of the gun. Get it started on the frame, and then let it kind of lower down, and then you can, once you get it to that point right there, you can go ahead and push your mainspring housing up a little bit. To be able to get this up into position, we really need this to go all the way, and that means your hammer needs to stay forward like that. Now, to be able to put the thumb safety in, to get him to go through this hole here, this needs to be cocked all the way to the rear. So we don't want to fight with this first. We want to leave this forward. That takes all the tension off of this guy, mainspring housing, and then we can push it in like that and go ahead and put in the pin. Get that held down like that. Give it a little tap. Get the pin tapped, get it started. Okay, once the pin is started, you don't even have to put that all the way. You can see that clearly. I got the pin about halfway. I like to stop about right there just in case I need to make a change to it. All right. So now the grip safety, we've got the hammer forward, but we need to go ahead and cock it. We can cock it now without anything getting away. So now the hammer's cocked to the rear. So now we got the grip safety to put it in there. We got the grip safety held in tight. Now we're going to use that, make sure that hole is lined up good. And we'll take our thumb safety. Now of the 2, make sure you get the one that's got the blade on it, because that's the male side. And it's got to go in that hole first. So let's get it on this side, put it in the hole, and then you want to try to get it in between safety, safe on, and safe off, and then it should go in. One of the things I use on this, just to make it a little easier, you got to get that plunger out of the way. So I use a small screwdriver, and I sneak in behind it and push that in place. And that should go in for you. So now, I got him in all the way. Just a little bit of finesse is all that's needed on that. And once you get that in all the way, then this one has an ambidextrous. So we need to put the other side safety on. I have to feel for this in a little bit. I like to put the one, my main one for right-handed people, put it down like that, and then we will make this one match. So we're going to go through the hole on this side with the complementary one, the left-handed for left-handed people, and go through that hole, and we've got him up, and then you just feel for the tab. You'll be able to tell, look at the position of the other one and feel for the tab, and it's kind of like putting a screwdriver in a slot for a screw. Once you get that, then you can go ahead and try it on both sides. I like to go up and down, make sure they're both together, and they're both operating good. Now the only thing that holds this safety on this gun, or any of them that are dual safeties or ambidextrous safety, is going to be your grip panel. So that's where your grip panel comes in. I got the screws laid out for it, so we'll bring the grip panel in. You can see the safety there. We'll put him up, get him out of the way, and bring that panel in there. Put him in place. Now I'm not going to tighten these with this screwdriver because it's the wrong one, but it's a good place to get started, okay? And on these, it is a good idea to put a little blue Loctite, because with the G10, it doesn't have any compression like regular wood does. So because of that, they will back out on you. Like I say, all I'm going to do is just get these started and have a bit that you need to get this job done. It's kind of a hollow ground is what I call it. It's not the typical screwdriver that you see Grandpa would have like a Craftsman. Now I'm going to go ahead and snug that down. I don't try to line up the screw heads on these. Some people go crazy if you don't, but sometimes they just flat won't line up. And you can get by with that if you use O-rings, but I'm not using O-rings today. Or you could just switch over to a Allen head or a Torx head, and then you don't have any screw slots. So we're not going to worry about the slots. That's not a huge deal to me. So now let's check out our hammer, make sure it works good. Hammer works. Don't want to let it slam against the frame, but we've got the hard part done. That's the purpose of this video, was basically just to be able to put in a brand new sear and a disconnector and a hammer. So we got the hard part done. The rest is under the same conditions that you'd have with field stripping. So got it done. A little bit difficult, not too bad. And then let's go ahead and put that pin in all the way. On that, I like to take my little electrical tape, lay it out like that, get all the other tools out of the way. And I got a punch right here. I think this is, let's see what size punch this is. This is a, let's see what size that is. That is, just for your reference, that is a 1/16. 1/16. I thought it was a different size. 1/16 is a good size for a lot of different things on guns. All right, we'll go into the hollow part of that pin. Make sure we're in the hollow. And then we're going to be able to tap that. That has a Christmas tree pin that goes down the middle of the back. And that pin has a little round notch cut right in the center of it. And when you get where it's supposed to be, it'll kind of act like it's relieved to be there. So there him is. He's right where he's supposed to be. We check the male side, make sure it looks cosmetically sound. I got a little orange paint when I was beating on it. Nobody cares. But now we'll go ahead and switch over to the big camera and finish it up. So let's go ahead and put this slide back together. Get him all laid out. Let's start off with a barrel. Nice barrel like that. This will go pretty quick. Let's do a barrel bushing. That'll go pretty quick. Good fit on that. Let's go a nice heavy duty Wolf recoil spring like that. And we will slide this together real quick and pin it. And see how all that feels together. All factory parts, but we put it together quick so that you can see a complete gun. I can't wait to start shooting this thing again. It stayed out of the stayed out of the shooting range too long. There's that. Then on mine, I have a special O-ring. Put the O-ring there like that. And then this piece of jewelry, Hughes Precision. I do like that a lot. We'll go until we touch the O-ring good, get it kissed down good and tight. Put that safety on, that'll keep everything in good shape, and there it is, good and snug. Then this beautiful little, this is another little piece here, that was from EGW. Hopefully won't launch it across the room. In place, all right. Let's double check everything. Everything feels good. All right, that is a beautiful gun right there. I like me a TSOS Raider. That is a nice, nice rig, man. Now, the next step with this is to get this thing back on the range and start putting some lead down range with it. I've already shot it with lasers a little bit, but the next we're going to do some open sight shooting. We're going to do some function test, do a whole bunch of reliability testing with it. And so far it's proven to be very reliable. I have been shooting it with a factory mags, but I want to go ahead and get my 47D Wilson Combat mag and see if it likes that okay. But for the most part, I've been sticking with the mags that these come with. They ship this with 2 mags, and these are the Metgar, and that's got a blued finish on it, but it is just, I mean, slick as glass, man, slicker than glass. It feels like a piece of chrome, but that's a blued finish on a Metgar magazine. So we'll try this out, this nice TSOS Raider, and see how she does. Thank you for watching so much, and we'll see you again soon. Over and out for now.